You feel too much, don't you? Every glance, every silence, every shift in someone's tone reverberates through you like a hidden frequency only you can hear. You call it sensitivity, but it's not a gift, is it? It's an open wound disguised as awareness, and the world keeps pressing its fingers into it. You don't just see the world, you absorb it. Every detail, every hesitation, every flicker of emotion from another person slides beneath your skin like splinters. The brain calls this high sensory processing sensitivity, but definitions don't dull the ache. You sense what others overlook, the micro tremor in a friend's smile, the emptiness in laughter, the fatigue behind someone's eyes. It's not empathy. It's intrusion. You are constantly decoding human behavior, translating it into emotional noise until you can't tell what's yours anymore. Your nervous system, wired for survival, overfunctions in the name of connection. You understand too much, and that understanding corrodes you from the inside out. How do you live in a world that keeps whispering so loudly? You learned early to read people before they spoke. It was survival, a way to predict moods, avoid rejection, stay safe. But now, that same mirror you use to understand others reflects something distorted. You don't know where they end, and you begin. Psychologists call it emotional contagion, the involuntary absorption of another's feelings until you're drowning in emotions that aren't yours. You mirror their pain, their joy, their anxiety, and then mistake the reflection for your own truth. You wear the world's moods like ill-fitting clothes, but can't take them off without tearing yourself open. You are empathy without edges, compassion without boundaries. When your entire identity is built on feeling others, what happens when no one feels you back? Awareness was supposed to be liberation. Mindfulness, reflection, insight, words whispered by self-help prophets as if they were keys to peace. But for you, awareness doesn't bring calm. It multiplies the noise. You watch yourself think, feel yourself feeling, analyze every twitch of emotion until even stillness becomes unbearable. Psychologists call it metacognition, the mind observing itself. But what happens when observation becomes obsession? You dissect every interaction, replay every word, searching for meaning in places where none exists. You are both subject and scientist, trapped in an experiment of your own making. Awareness turns in on itself, collapsing under the weight of infinite self-analysis. If seeing everything means losing the ability to live inside any of it, was awareness ever worth it? You think it's just emotional, but your body knows better. The tightness in your chest, the tremor in your hands, the nausea that creeps in before words even form, these are not coincidences. The body becomes the archive of every unspoken thought, every suppressed reaction. Psychologists call it somatization, the translation of emotion into flesh. You've carried so much of others' pain that your nervous system mistakes their memories for your own. Even in silence, your body listens to tones, to absences, to ghosts of feelings not yet born. You tell yourself you're fine, while your muscles whisper otherwise. The body doesn't lie. It only waits for you to listen. If your body is the only one telling the truth, why do you keep trying to silence it? You chase control like it's salvation. You plan, anticipate, overthink, trying to build safety out of prediction. But control isn't safety, it's surveillance. You watch your thoughts like a guard watching prisoners, terrified one will escape. Psychology calls it hypervigilance, a trauma echo that teaches you peace is dangerous because it means you're not ready for what's next. You call it preparation, but it's fear wearing a mask of order. You analyze people's tones, forecast their moods, calculate emotional probabilities as if you could outthink pain itself. The irony is cruel. The more control you seek, the less free you become. What if the thing you're trying to manage has always been you? You devour self-help like scripture habits, affirmations, routines. Each promise of transformation feels like oxygen. But improvement becomes its own addiction, doesn't it? You turn your humanity into a project, dissecting flaws that were once just features of being alive. Psychologists call it the perfectionism trap, the endless pursuit of an ideal self that keeps moving as soon as you get close. You measure worth in progress, peace in productivity, healing in data points. You mistake self-work for selfhood. Every new insight carves another layer off until all that's left is analysis pretending to be growth. You keep asking, how can I fix myself? But what if the part of you that's desperate to improve is the very thing that's broken? You crave connection, but connection terrifies you. To be seen is to risk being misread, misunderstood, or worse, felt too deeply. You keep people close enough to touch your surface, but never the pulse beneath it. Psychologists call it avoidant. Attachment, the push-pull between hunger for closeness and terror of losing control. You mistake solitude for strength, yet it's only a shield against the unbearable truth. You want to be known, but not consumed. You sit across from people, smile, nod, empathize, while somewhere inside, you're quietly starving for someone to notice how much you're pretending to be okay. If you can feel everyone else so vividly, why does no one seem to feel you? Your mind doesn't stop. It spins, twists, and folds in on itself, a perpetual motion machine of worry and analysis. Cognitive psychology calls it rumination, the endless revisiting of the same fears, regrets, and hypotheticals. Each thought loops like a spiral staircase leading nowhere, yet you climb it anyway, step after step. You question your motives, your words, your worth, until reality itself feels like a construct you can no longer trust. Memory and imagination blur. The present is just a stage where past and future conspire against you. Your mind is both jailer and prisoner, and the bars are invisible. If thinking can't save you, then what is left to believe? You search for meaning like a compass in a storm, but every answer splinters under your touch. Existential psychology calls this enemy, the erosion of shared purpose, leaving you untethered in a world that feels simultaneously intimate and alien. Every belief, every principle, every story you've clung to begins to twist when scrutinized too closely. The more you feel, the more hollow the constructs around you become. You realize morality, love, achievement, all of it is a framework humans built to survive their own chaos. And you, who absorb the world too fully, can see the scaffolding shaking. If everything that seems solid is just illusion, how do you stand when the ground itself disappears beneath you? Memory is supposed to be a refuge, a place to revisit who you were, but yours is treacherous. Neuroscience calls it reconstructive memory, each recollection rebuilt, reshaped by emotion, bias, and trauma. You can't trust what you remember because your mind colors it with pain, exaggerates the slightest slights, and edits joy until it feels distant, almost alien. Your past isn't a story, it's a living thing that stalks you, shifting with every thought, every fear, every reflection. You try to anchor yourself in what was, but the ground keeps sliding through your fingers. If even your own memories conspire against you, then who or what remains to trust? You feel others' suffering with such intensity that it consumes your own. Psychologists call this empathic distress, the pain of witnessing another's anguish so vividly that it mirrors your own. You strive to soothe, to understand, to carry the weight for them, but the burden never lightens. Every act of compassion becomes a ledger, tallying the cost to your fragile psyche. You think you are giving, but in truth, you are trading your sanity for the illusion of connection. You wonder if anyone else even notices or cares that you are silently bleeding for their ease. If your deepest power is your greatest curse, then what remains when the world finally stops needing you? You anticipate threats that haven't occurred, imagining slights before they are spoken, disasters before they arrive. Cognitive psychology calls this anticipatory anxiety, the mind rehearsing horrors it hopes never happen, yet suffering them as if real. You watch every word, every glance, every shift in tone, calculating invisible dangers with the precision of a predator and the dread of prey. Your nervous system lives in constant alert, your heart a drumbeat of unseen alarms. Sleep becomes an intruder, rest a betrayal, because even in stillness, your mind refuses to surrender. If your perception is never safe, then what horizon remains for peace? You exist in pieces, scattered across moments, memories, and moods. Dissociation, psychologists warn, is not an abstract concept. It is a survival mechanism. When feeling becomes unbearable, the mind fractures, creating distance between you and the storm within. You watch yourself act, react, think, as though from behind a glass wall, both participant and spectator. The fragmentation is subtle at first, almost imperceptible, until your reflection in mirrors and conversations feels alien. You wonder which part of you is the real self, and the more you seek it, the further it drifts. If the self is a constellation of borrowed fragments, then which fragment is you, if any at all? You seek to understand everything, your emotions, others' intentions, the mechanics of pain itself. Psychology calls it intellectualization, the attempt to process feelings through reason to survive their weight. You dissect heartbreak, anxiety, and despair as if clarity could replace experience. Yet the more you understand, the more the world seems a labyrinth with walls that shift whenever you turn a corner. Knowledge becomes a mirror reflecting your isolation, and insight only deepens the canyon between you and those who live lightly, untouched by such depth. You hunger for comprehension, but every answer spawns a dozen new questions. If understanding only reveals more abyss, how much longer can you stare into it before falling? You are the sum of every thought, every feeling, every borrowed pain, and yet that sum is never whole. Your mind folds back on itself endlessly, a hall of mirrors where each reflection questions the last. Psychology names the phenomena. Self-help offers techniques, yet none can staunch the relentless awareness that you carry. You are too much and never enough, a vessel for the world's invisible weight, perpetually drowning in what cannot be held. Even silence is invasive, even solitude betrays. You were told to feel, to empathize, to grow, but growth requires leaving something behind, and you have nothing left to surrender. What remains when the layers of you and of the world have collapsed into nothing but echoing sensation?